Okay, we got cut off a little bit there, so I'm just going to pick up where I left off about the using the miniature effect, the small models. So that, like I was saying, if you want to have a building blow up or have a city be destroyed, one of the best ways to do that is to use miniature effects, the small models of those buildings and cities. One of the things, like they mention up here, that you have to do is to use the high speed photography, shoot at the faster frame rate. So then when you play at the normal frame rate of 24 frames per second, it slows everything down a little bit because otherwise everything looks really, since it's miniatures, it's going to move like with the physics of the smaller pieces, the smaller objects, and it's not going to look right. So using that slow motion will give everything a sense of weight that it wouldn't have otherwise, to create the illusion that it's really a full-size object that's being destroyed and not a small one. So you can see this a lot of times too if you wanted to have like a dam break and water go pouring out and destroying a building or something. They'll use models, but it looks really silly at normal speed when that water comes down and is hitting those objects. It looks flimsy, it looks fake. And so that slowing down of the film, of the video, creates that sense of weight and makes it look more realistic. Summation, a term originally used in Japan for a tokusatsu special effect technique to portray daikaiju giant monster using an actor in a monster suit on sets, made using models and other supplies easily obtainable at a hobby shop. So summation is just the creation of a monster by a guy in a suit, and it can be mixed with other techniques, like we talked about the miniatures. So if you wanted your giant monster destroying a city, like in the case of Godzilla, so over there on the left we have the Godzilla suit actor kind of hanging out of his Godzilla suit, but he would be put in with miniatures to destroy the city. And then again, that motion is slowed down to make him look like he's a giant monster moving in that slow motion, and then the building pieces falling have weight. And like I said, this can be used in tandem with some other video or film effects. So on the bottom right there, again, it's that 1976 King Kong film. So in the foreground, you have the animatronic hand, this actual giant arm or hand that they created for the film. And so that's a composite shot. So in the foreground is the actress Jessica Lange in the hand of the giant monster, or the animatronic hand. And then in the background is another shot of the actor in the suit. And so they combine two different techniques, the suitmation and the animatronic, again, mixed together to create the best of the possible effects. Motion capture, a process by which a device can be used to capture patterns of live movement. The data is then transmitted to a computer where simulation software displays it applied to a virtual actor. So this is kind of the final evolution, well, at least at this point anyway, of a lot of the processes that we've already talked about and seen. So if you remember when we were talking about animation, we talked about the process of rotoscoping, where you used a live actor and then the animators would trace over that actor so the movements look natural and real. For the cartoon animation, motion capture has the same idea behind it, in that whenever you create these CGI models of creatures or animals or even people, a lot of times in video games it's done like this. So whenever you have people acting in cutscenes and videos, in order to give them a realistic look, they have actual actors who are creating and providing the movement. And they are outfitted with the suit that a lot of times will have these markers, these little balls on them. So then those are reference points that go into the computer as like kind of a skeleton or a frame that then is used for the models created in the computer. So one of the most famous people to do this is Andy Serkis, who down there at the bottom you see two images of. He did probably the first famous one that he did was Gollum or Smeagol in The Lord of the Rings. And then after that point, he's kind of been the go-to guy for anytime you wanted to do some kind of motion capture on a film. He's also done on the right there, you see him with those like arm extensions. That's because he's playing Caesar from Planet of the Apes films, and he needed to run on all fours like an ape. And so that's what those arms are there for, is so he can make that movement look natural, like his arms are actually that long. So motion capture, kind of the final evolution in creating realistic movement, just like rotoscoping was for traditional animation back in the day. And then that is the end of our terms.